Mr. Elliot Schwartz, welcome to the show. So glad you're here.
Honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited for this conversation today, and I'm going to give a little bit of background about how we met and how much impact you had on just that short amount of time we spent some time together here in January of 2021. But I'm really excited for this conversation because it's going to go all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just like my mind. So that'll be good.
Yeah, me too. So in January, I got to meet you and your lovely wife, Lindsay. And one of the things that you guys really imparted on us as you both are so in tune with each other and such a power couple, but the way that you showed up as a guy, as a man, as a husband, as a support system to an entrepreneur, and you're an entrepreneur as well, but like the dynamic between the both of you, as you both are different individuals, such a different background, different personalities, but you had such a harmonious relationship and such an open-minded perspective on your relationship with, your number one or number two. It was such a beautiful experience for us to be a part of. And I suppose I'd like to start with that journey. And how did you get there? Tell me about that.
That's a great question. And it's been a long journey. So we've been married 10 years, which in relative, there's relationships that are longer than that. But just like any beginning of a partnership or a relationship, it took work. And we are wired, like you said, so very different. I'm all play and ease and big visionary thinking. And she is like granular to the detail, almost OCD. I mean, she loves like the success is in the details for her, and she does not miss details. I don't even see details. So I think that was our biggest obstacle to like really understanding each other. I'll just use this example. So I'd come home from work and I would just start throwing clothes. Like it was just, I'm hot, it's AZ, I'm just tossing clothes everywhere. And she was interpreting that as like, I don't love her. Right. Because she knows she likes a neat house, and she really felt like it was disrespectful. And so we go to this personal development course. We're really learning that like true acceptance of the other person's weakness is like is where the gold is. So, we had this conversation like, hey, I'm not doing this because I don't love you. I'm doing this because I literally don't think about it. And I will make the utmost effort to pick up my clothes, but I can't promise you I'm going to remember it every day. And she had this just transition of like, hey, you're actually perfect. And you balance me out in so many ways that you leaving the clothes there, like I love you even more because you're wired the way you are. And that little nugget, like we took that and we ran with it about everything. Like what we perceived as maybe like annoying or like, maybe just like not how we are personally wired. And we have intentionally shifted that to loving them even more because they're so different. They have strengths and weaknesses, and it's yin and yang, but ultimately like we like consciously choose to love each other for those. And like her imperfections are the things that I love most about her because I'm the only one who gets to see those things. So, and not to say like it's perfect all the time. We definitely still bug each other, and we definitely still get on each other's nerves just like everybody else. But it's just like a practice, like a meditation, like a real consciousness around like, I love everything about her, and I love the things that can be perceived as not perfect or bothersome to me even more. So that was like, I think that switch was like our true journey. And we just apply that to everywhere, business, how we run our household, how we run our finances, like our outlooks in life. And it's really worked for us.
I love that. And what shows up for me, and this is a direct lesson from this day that we spent with you guys, is that like really love the isness of everything. And I think we often find the things that we don't like, the things we can complain about, and you made the right analogy, is we experience that in every aspect of our life, business, personal life, our body, whatever it is. We find all the problems, but we forget to just like love on what is right there in front of us. And what is the magic when you do that?
total shift for me. I mean, she will work from the moment she gets up to the moment she goes to bed because she really loves what she does. I mean, she loves what she does. And like that used to a little bit bother me, but now I just like, I respect her even more, and I'll pry her away for dinner. And I'm like, hey, this is our sacred time together, and we'll have these breaks and we'll do walks together with our dog. But the impact is just overwhelming love and gratitude for exactly who she is. And that's totally my responsibility. Her actions and her behavior has nothing to do with how much I love her and am grateful for her. And that has transformed me inside with our relationship. I try to do that in all areas, but for some reason, like me and her, like that's like so easy for me to do. And I'm like transitioning that philosophy to everything has been a little bit trickier, but at least I have a great foundation to build off of, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. One of the things I love most about you is that you really are contradictory to who you would expect Elliot to be. And if you've ever met Elliot, like you're like 6'5", like 240 pounds, like big, husky, ripped dude. And yet you're so self-aware and so connected with how you want to show up, and you know the way you respect people, and you're such a warm guy. And again, not to sound like I'm judging you, but like you're such a warm guy, and I definitely felt that energy from you when we met the first time. And I'd love to talk about your background a little bit in terms of, you know, your upbringing and your involvement in sports and how that's affected your life.
Sure. So sports was my savior. Like if I was in sports, I would go crazy. So I would shoot baskets all day long. I was just totally driven for performance around that. And I got a scholarship to college. I didn't grow up in a household with a ton of money. So that was really my avenue of, you know, getting school paid for. And I was, my true love was basketball, and I had a scholarship to be a basketball player, but that fell apart the summer going in from high school to college. The coach got fired, new coach came in, and I transitioned to tennis because I was a 2-sport athlete and was able to get a scholarship to play tennis in Colorado. And I picked up and moved from college to my work experience without knowing anybody 3 times, which has been interesting because you build a whole community, you pick up and you move, and you're completely alone. And I think the biggest lesson I got from that is, you know, we're also connected. And even though I'm feeling so isolated, there's somebody at the restaurant, at the coffee shop who literally, if you just put your guard down and have an open conversation, like that could be your best friend. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I just feel like we're all going through life, and we can feel so alone, even if we have a community around us. And I don't want people to feel that around me. I want them to feel like I truly care about them, and I have their best interests at heart. And to me, like that's the most important thing that I value. I don't know. I feel like I felt instantly connected to you because you have that same warm, like compassionate presence where someone could show up and do anything, be like a crazy, goofy, 6'5", 260-pound guy. And I just felt nothing but warmth and respect from you immediately. And I was like, ooh, that's good. And I really am like intentional about emulating that.
Yeah, that's clear that you definitely are intentional. And I don't think it's not easy, right? It's not natural. You have to work on it. It's a muscle, but you can exercise that muscle and create the self-awareness to continue to do that. I think that shows up really naturally for you now. Yeah.
So it's interesting because I'm competitive, and I've always been competitive, but I've never been competitive to win. I've only been competitive to improve and to show up my most prepared. Like if I can show up my most prepared, I'll win in a sporting event for the most part. But if I show up and I haven't put the work in, and that's going to immediately take away from my confidence. So in life, that for me now, that looks like, am I meditating? Am I taking care of my body? Am I eating right? Am I reading? Am I preparing for my meetings before I go to my meetings? If I show up and I'm prepared, and am I preparing for the person sitting across me and what their needs are, right? If I'm conscious about them and I'm prepared on their needs and how best to serve them, I'll win. Even if it doesn't turn out great, even if it, like, for some reason the transaction doesn't go through, they feel that I have their best interest in heart. And later down the road, like, there's going to be a collaboration or a partnership or a referral. And when I show up prepared in those aspects, I win. And I think that's so similar to your pillars.
Mm-hmm.
And I love your holistic approach to business with your pillars. And I resonate with that so much, because if one area falls out, I'm not showing up prepared.
Yeah, and let's lean into that, because I really do want to understand more about your routine and the things that help you be prepared. That's what this is all about, because I think everyone can learn from. I mean, you just hit it right on the head, right? The whole premise of the 5 pillars is that it's like a wheel. Like, things get squeaky. You can spend too much time on your business, but not enough time on your personal growth, or not enough time on your health, or not enough time on your relationships. And we have to, like, balance all of these major functions of our life.
Yes.
And if we can be focused on that and prepared for it, then we can show up, which is what you're talking about. Totally. And if you can show up, and I loved how you just framed that, like, I don't care as much about winning as I do about getting better and learning. That's really powerful. Let's get into you. I want to understand, because you're a health nut, you're a fitness nut, you love food and cooking, but you're also a nutrition nut. Like, tell us about where you found success in your own routine to allow you to continue to show up in the way you want.
That's a great question.
Get specific.
Okay, I will get granular. So, what my day looks like is I'll wake up, and I'll be honest, like, sometimes I wake up at 2:30 and I'm so excited for the day, I can't go back to sleep. And I have to literally, like, get up and move around and then try to get myself back to sleep. But I wake up so early, and I don't know why. I'm working on that. See, that's part of the unbalance there. But I will meditate for 10 minutes, and I go to YouTube and I just Google morning meditations, and I try to get different ones, because I don't want to get stuck in the same message. I want to be, like, a little bit, have a different awareness in the start of my morning. I'll journal in my phone the notes that I got from it. And then I will take my dog for a walk with my wife in the morning. From there, I go to the gym, and I like heavy resistance weight training. It just works for me. So I like to lift heavy and push myself there. I go to the sauna. I do the sauna for 5 to 10 minutes afterwards. I feel like I'm about to pass out. I leave there. I come back. I make breakfast burritos. So I make 2 breakfast burritos every day. It's like my recovery. And I'll usually wait to eat around noon, because I only eat 2 meals a day. For some reason, that intermittent fasting, giving my digestion a break, really helps me to clear out and think clearly for that morning. After the gym, I'm usually taking calls for work or emails, or, working with my mentors, whatever it is. Like, I'm most productive in that window. So I clear everything out. I don't do anything from the time that after I work out till I eat. Like, that is I get everything in my day. I try to get it in there in those 3 hours, and I am focused, and I get things done as quickly as possible for my work. From there, I'll eat, and I'll, like, take a little, I need a recharge. So I'll eat, and I'll, like, either I'll take a nap, or I'll just sit down, like, and I'll totally de-stress, and then I'll jump back in it for a couple hours, but I'm never as productive. It's funny. I try to show up as productive as I can in that window. Doesn't really work. And then I'm starting to unwind. And dinner, I love to cook. I love to smoke foods on my Traeger. And then me and my wife will always do dinner together, and we'll do a family walk, and then we'll de-stress from the day and collaborate on that family walk. And then we'll just unwind and have dinner. So that's my day.
Dude, that was magic. That, ladies and gentlemen, that is a winning day right there. I've never had anyone explain in that level of detail, and I love how you did, because that's how I look at my day. Like, I break it up in functions and minutes and days and hours, and dude, that was freaking awesome, man.
Well, I appreciate it. So you have a similar structure of a day, or?
Well, I mean, I think for me, and the reason why this is such an important aspect for me in my life is I never really had this. I don't think I really had the level of routine until, like, maybe 2 to 3 years ago. And I have, my routine is similar to yours in the level of specificity, and you're trying to build this consistency. And if you can, right, you have some off days here and there, or some flexibility or whatever,
Totally.
but if you can
Totally.
build this level of consistency, you can really perform at a sustainable level. And that's why routine is part of the 5 pillars of the rich equation, because I think if, it helps you build consistency to get you the results you want. So for me,
Yes.
I'm an early guy, similar to you. So I'm an early guy. I'll wake up at 5. I normally work out first. I do a meditation, a little bit of journaling, and kind of prep my day before the girls wake up. I have 2 little kids, and
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
yeah. So before they're up around 6:37, I've had a nice 2 hours to myself. I've worked out. I really enjoy the fresh morning, being able to like run outside in the dark, and it's just incredibly soothing and grounding for me before the day gets thrown at you, right? So same thing, and one of the things I learned in terms of like family balance was like I really needed to dedicate that 1 hour getting the family ready for school or before we go to work, like, and being present there, and not feel like, well, I need to be reading emails while I'm at the breakfast table or what have you. So really try to focus in on certain segments like me time, family time, and then I have a similar diet schedule. Like I intermittent fast, but in the morning. So I don't really eat until 12. And then I'll eat kind of 2 meals similar to you, but on the back part of the day. I'll have coffee, but I'm actually experimenting with no coffee right now. But generally speaking, there's that. And then work, same schedule. Like I'll take a midday snack or a light lunch, and then I'll snack throughout the day. And I don't have the space to be taking a quick nap, although I would love to, but I'll do like a 5 or 10 minute breathing or meditation to like restart and get back in tune and get back grounded. And then my evening, now I'm starting to slow down, and I'm normally not in front of a computer or a phone by 7, and meditate my way to bed or spend like game time or things like that. So I'm a huge calendar guy. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Like if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't happen. Even if that's like a date night or spend time with my kids, spend time with my wife, spend time doing this, like everything is on my calendar, and it allows me to have this routine. And I never had that in my life.
I love that. So I'm not that. I'm working to get everything in my calendar because things are slipping through the cracks, especially personal wise. Like
Right.
Never for business. That's always in my mind. I never miss a call, but for personal, like I will absolutely like forget to stop and eat, or if I have I do. So one thing I forgot to say is I do virtual gaming with my brother, and this is our way of like staying in contact. So we have like the Oculus headsets, and we'll do that at night for like 30 or 40 minutes. And it's funny because that's in my calendar and I never forget that. But I love the calendar approach.
Yeah, and like what you just said about your brother, it's like it's on your calendar. So it's not just about the gaming, right? It's about spending time with him and having that dedicated present time. And I really encourage people to use their calendars more for that stuff, because it's so easy to forget, like family time or game night or little things. But I think for me, and I know this is for you, like as a high achiever, you focus on what you know you can do and control, but then all the personal stuff gets left behind.
Totally. And we joined a couples mastermind, and we've been intentional about date nights. So to your point, when that's on the calendar, we never miss a date night. Right. And when it's not, it hardly ever happens. So that is a true testament to putting things on your calendar and like really sticking to it, especially personal wise. I think that's brilliant.
I want to talk about, let's pivot to let's pivot to community for a minute. And you had just shared with me that you went on a guys trip right before we started recording. That you went on a guys trip, and I was sharing that I just did a similar trip a couple weeks ago. And I think that I'd like to sort of dig into, what you got from that, and tell us a little bit about it if you want. But sure. What you got from it. Why were you attracted to it? What showed up for you during the process that you perhaps didn't expect? Like, let's just get into it.
So I love this question, and I'm so excited because I'm just coming from it. I'm still buzzing from it. It was amazing. So it was called the Wild Man Experience, and my good friend Johnny ran it. and he's a former Army Ranger. So he's a badass dude. I mean, this guy makes me look like a third grader. I mean, he's jacked, he's tattooed up, he's got a huge beard. He just got that very intimidating presence, but he is so supportive with men. He's so intentional. He's not afraid to get into his feelings. And that's the kind of person I want to be around. He's an intentional leader, and I want to be around men like that. So, you know, I booked a trip. It's a little bit outside my comfort zone because they're like, hey, we're going to be, you're shooting from helicopters and you're training with a sniper for long distances. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can barely shoot a pistol 10 yards. Like, I don't know how I'm going to be around all these like tactical guys, but let's just jump right in. Right. So I get there, and they started every morning off with meditation. He ended every day with getting around a campfire and opening up and sharing our feelings. And actually one of the most powerful activities he did at the end was you sit and you tell each person, every single person tells one person, like, to go around the room, what the impact that one person had on them during the trip and who they are as a person. And that was like super amazing to hear. And, guys started breaking down. Big bad dudes started breaking down crying because they didn't know they had that kind of impact, and they were showing up with insecurities, and they had like, it was so transformative to see how the biggest, baddest dudes are walking around with insecurities, and we all are. I am, everyone is. So it was cool to see. And the feedback that I got from it, what they told me, which had a huge impact, it was a constant theme of like, you're warm. I feel comfortable around you. I feel nothing but like love coming from you. And it's weird to hear another guy tell you that a little bit, but it was, it's like, hey, that's a theme, and I need to lean into that. That's a gift I have, and I need to lean into that. And I need to just not be shy about sharing that with the world. And yeah, I'm packaged a little differently. I'm a big guy, and I don't fit on the airplane well, but I have a heart that's big too, and that's something that,
it's true.
Before I would think like, hey, you're soft, why am I like this? I should be tougher, like, instead of carrying around a whistle to protect myself, like I should learn MMA, but that's not really me, like I don't really carry a whistle. That was a joke, but to lean into your gifts and lean into who you really are. And that was one of the most transformative exercises I've been a part of. So yeah, it was fun to do all the cool shooting stuff, but really it was just connecting with these amazing humans and learning from them, and what they see in me and what I see in them, and learning about their insecurities and learning there's a theme, and that it gave me more confidence just to show up in any group, be myself, and I'm going to provide value, and I'm going to be, able to just really like show my true soul.
I think it's such a powerful experience to be able to do that in 3 to 4 day period of time, when somebody creates that container of safety that you could show up as your true self and like be vulnerable and really face your fears, let's call it. And I wonder what would happen if we showed up like that, sometimes in our house, so at the Thanksgiving dinner table, in our boardrooms, in society. I loved what you said, like just sit down with somebody at a coffee shop and like listen. Why is it that we're not operating at that level all the time?
I think that's a great question. And I don't know if it's the speed of life. I think people are myself too, get caught up in moving so quickly, from one thing to the next, trying to achieve, because you're wired like that. I'm wired, a lot of people want to achieve and not taking the time
like
to
really
slow down. And I'm fast. I like to talk fast. I like to operate fast. So that's been a huge thing that meditation has helped me with, is to slow down, become more intentional. But I find myself, when I am slowing down, I'm gaining so much more knowledge, gaining so much more insight, seeing more opportunities instead of walking right past them with trying to get to the next thing, hearing more opportunities, hearing more ways to serve people. And I think like the speed of the way the society is moving is so fast. I think the ones who slow down and intentional are going to be the big winners.
I love that. That's people need to go back and listen to that again. That one of the things that really inspired me to launch this platform was that we as men are often trained at a pretty young age to like chase success in whatever that definition means. And most of the time society defines that as financial success, right?
Right.
Go be as rich as hell.
Yeah.
But I think that we often are not trained and grown up understanding all these things that you're talking about. And for me, I know this is a very cultural thing. Like we are not raised to talk about our feelings. We don't come from that culture, right? And so what I find that's incredibly powerful about these communities you're talking about is being in a group of men or being in a group of like-minded people who can break you down and like get down to the core of what's really going on it's incredibly liberating. It's you just said like I'm buzzing from it. It's like it's almost energizing rather than feeling like, oh man, that was really intense or exhausting, or I feel scared sharing what was really going on in my heart. It's almost like, dude, now that I got that 100-pound gorilla off my back, like I'm invincible. And I want to remind people how powerful it is to like, people often find vulnerability that is equate vulnerability to weakness, but it's actually the opposite. It's absolutely the opposite. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. I've never viewed vulnerability as weakness. And I think sports helped me with that because the quicker I realized, oh my God, like my backhand in tennis sucks. I need to work on my backhand in tennis. If I just ignore that my backhand in tennis sucks, I'm going to play somebody who's good enough to exploit my backhand, right? Or basketball, like, hey, like when I dribble with my left hand, it goes off my foot. It's going out of bounds. Like I have to really embrace that I need to work on that. And life's the same way, I think as a younger man graduating from college, it took me a while to realize that emotionally, life's the same way. If I'm walking around with trauma and somebody says something to me and I'm being triggered around it, which was happening, if I perceived someone intentionally disrespecting me, I would fly off the handle, I would lose it, and it could have been a total misunderstanding, and I could have just read the sentence wrong or the inflection of their tone wrong and completely lost my cool and missed out on 3 hours of my life, a day of my life, a month of my life, whatever was happening. And it took a while to realize like, hey, that's a weak backhand for me. I just need to work on that. I need to talk to somebody about this. I need to figure out why this is happening, right? And I need to just get better at it. That still happens today. There's areas where I have a weakness and I have to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, this is happening to me. Either I'm not performing in a certain way, or I'm showing up to my wife a certain way, or I'm having these feelings of anger, or I'm getting caught up in media or what's going on in the world, which I do. And just be vulnerable enough to say, why is this happening? Work on that, focus on that, get better at that, and show up differently and show up stronger. So the weakness isn't every sports. Mike Tyson worked on his weaknesses. He's the baddest dude in the world, the best boxer of all time.
That's right.
He's not kidding himself that he doesn't have weaknesses. He's working on his weaknesses all the time. So every warrior has weaknesses, and I think it only makes you a better warrior to acknowledge those and to work on those. It actually makes you a coward to ignore them and to pretend like you don't have any. And I don't want to be a coward, even though sometimes I am. But, you just work on it. And I think that's what it takes to win. That's what it takes to be the best man and partner and entrepreneur and father and whatever else we have in life, is to work on our weaknesses.
That was so freaking good. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a little bit of a pivot here, and I want to go back to your relationship with Lindsay, because it really is something that is pretty rare in the way that I see you and the way you show up. And, Lindsay's an incredibly strong-minded, successful, career-minded woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, we talked about this before, that most men can find that maybe intimidating or emasculating in some way, sometimes in different dynamics. But the way that you show up for her and you maintain grace for her, but also you step into your own power and you find this like incredible identity in that for yourself. Can you talk a little bit about that and almost empowering? Like I believe really strongly, like the future is female, and I have 2 young daughters and I hope that they take over the world. And so I'm huge into this, and not to say like I'm a woman empowerment. I don't want to be disrespectful to that, but like I feel like there's something really special about creating space for women to be who they are and go after it with full horsepower.
Yeah.
But it affects our ego. It affects our identity sometimes as men. So the way you show up is so graceful. So talk a little bit about that.
It's harder than it looks. And I have to really show up and be in my own power. And for me to stand in my own power and be confident and feel like I am deserving of having a great partner and having the respect of a great partner, I have to work on myself. And if I'm not doing that, even though I may show up powerfully, I don't feel powerful. And that's like the true vulnerable like part of being with somebody who's an achiever. And I always said like, hey, in high school I had a manifestation or like a mantra that I was going to marry a millionaire model. Like I would always joke around with my friends like, don't worry about it, I'm going to marry a millionaire model and my life's going to be great. Like I was speaking it into existence before I knew I was speaking it into existence. And I put Lindsay through my training class when we first got married, and I'm part of her success and all that now. But as I agree with you that women are going to take over the world because they are amazing operators. They're so smart and talented and driven and loving at the same time. And I think like the future is female. I agree with you there. But I think that us as men really have an important role in that. And I think we will always have an important role. And I think it's important for us not to lose our power. And whatever gives you, like for me, I find power in strength. So I like to push myself in the gym when I'm being consistent there, when I'm sharpening my mind. Like I really show up with power when I'm consistent around those things. So that's like a key energizer for me to showing up in my power. Now for other people, maybe it's running or endurance or just eating clean or sleeping right, whatever is giving you power, or making money. Maybe that's how you find your worth and your identity. And that's fine if you're doing it in a healthy way. But I think really to be a good partner, like you have to own your own strength, especially when you have a partner that is a high producer. Does that make sense? I know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely
it does. I mean, I think that what you just hit on was like, it's really not about ego. It's just about showing up and being true to yourself and then finding your power in your own confidence, right? Like whether that confidence is in your own wealth success or your health and nutrition or your confidence in how you work out or your routine. And I like a lot of that. That shows up for me as well. What do you wish you knew 20 years ago?
Oh, I wish I knew how to invest. I wish I knew how to, buy houses and live in them during college and live rent free. And I wish I knew how to maximize like my resources. I would like, if I had kids, I would be teaching them to be an investor before I would teach them how to do anything else. I think inflation is going to be going higher and higher. And if we're not out investing the inflation, then we're going to be just kind of stuck. So I'm a big believer in having cash assets and having what you earn like out earns the increased cost of society. So yeah, it's my passion. Like I wish I knew how to invest 20 years ago.
Isn't it funny how we're just not taught these basic things of like, the model is so archaic and it's so formulaic that it's a program. Like you go to school, you go to college, you get a W-2, you have a 401k, and then you're 55 and you're like, holy shit, I should have been investing in income producing assets my whole time and not paying taxes and this and that. It's like so backwards.
It is. And it's so generational. Like
it's so generational.
Cool. It's cool that I don't know your background, but I know that your girls will have access to an incredible wealth of knowledge of how to start businesses if they want to do that. If at least it gives them the option to do that at a young age. Yes. And that may not be for them, and they may find happiness in their peace and their truth elsewhere, but just to have that access to you and what the journey you've been on is going to totally like give them a different life otherwise.
Yeah, I'm all about really killing these generational curses right now. Right. Yes. And the amount of access of information we have, and you could learn anything on YouTube. You want to start a dry cleaner, you could learn that shit on YouTube now. It's so amazing.
It's so true.
So as we wrap up, I really want to ask you a couple more questions, but what does true rich mean to you?
Balance and happiness. So balance for me, true rich means, one, I have income producing assets that are bigger than my expenditures. Like that for me financially is like, okay, I'm on the verge of being rich. Two, a great relationship with my wife. And that's like, right. I mean, that's really been the most important thing to me, right? It's like that we are healthy. And if something is not right between us, like we get on that right away, because I feel poor as hell when things aren't right between us. I feel like I have nothing. Yeah, I don't care if I had $10 million, $100 million in the bank. If that's not working for me, I'm the poorest person in the world. Health. So like we said, routines. If I'm just working on myself and getting in there and moving my body and stretching and feeling good, like I'm rich. If I have energy, I'm rich. If I am positive in my mindset, which is huge. So meditation, getting in the right place, having gratitude in my heart, having love for other people. Like if I'm not leading with love, I'm poor. Like to me, it's those so similar to your pillars. Like I can't believe, like your pillars are so dead on for me. I love your pillars. And I think really like if I'm not rich in any one of those, like I'm poor. I have to be moving, and I have to be balanced in all those areas as best I can. As long as I'm making efforts in each one and I'm not ignoring one, like I'm a rich man.
So beautiful, man. I mean, I think what I love about you too is you really do put the effort and is visible in all of those aspects of your life. So I just want to give you a lot of kudos for that. Final pop quiz question. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Oh my God. What a question. It's a throat rocket.
I don't know the answer. I just thought I'd ask that question. I don't know what the answer is. I'll have to look it up after the episode.
That's a great question.
I know somebody asked me that the other day, and he didn't give me the answer either. But I thought that was such an interesting question. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Audience, if you have an idea, just post it online.
If you could have one question for you, if you had one superhuman power, what would it be?
Oh my God! If I had one superpower, what would it be? I think it would be the ability to slow down time.
Ooh, like freeze it. Even
freeze it, still it, speed it up, slow it down. I think it's the one thing that, I think about life as a very limited resource. And I say this a lot in most of our recordings, is that, we're only here for a speck of time. If we think about how old the universe is and how long we live as humans on this planet, we are here for less than a dust of a speck of a speck. And then we're dead. And so everything else that we do in between does not matter. And so I think that the most limited resource we have is how we use our time. And I'm much more aware of that than ever. And I'll say that one of the things that really hit me really hard was when Kobe passed away.
Dude, I was in a helicopter that same day in LA at Chris Harder's mastermind. The same day Kobe went down, it's like the first time I've ever been in a helicopter. We got back and his helicopter went down in LA that same day. I was terrified.
That day changed so much for me. And I'll be honest, like I'm not a huge fan of like the Lakers, or I didn't have any personal relationship with Kobe or anything like that. But there's just the sheer fact of watching somebody who has created so much value, had so much success, done so much for so many people, just like time just ended for them in a heartbeat. I think it just created this really visceral experience for me that like, are you doing everything that you're meant to do while you're here? And if you're not, like, step into it, because you could be dead any minute. And I don't want to sound, like, negative morbid about it. Morbid. Yeah. But I think the reality of it really hit me in the face when that happened.
Interesting, because I had the similar experience, but almost opposite. And it made me feel like, okay, like I'm infinite. Only like, so weird that because I also feel like we have such limited time. It's going to go so fast. And at the same time, it gave me a feeling that I like am of all possibilities. Like I can do whatever I want. All I have to do is like, if it's like, if I focus on it and I do it, I can do anything. So I need to start thinking bigger. And I like, it almost gave me like, time is infinite. Like if I have another day on this earth, like that's 1,000,000 years. I'll never know. So I don't know. It's just like, I don't know if that even makes sense, but it makes me feel more abundant as opposed to like scarce.
You're right.
What I mean? And I work on that because like a lack mentality, like, oh my God, like there's only so much. And for time, for some reason, like I had this huge breakthrough this year, being stuck at home with COVID and not being able to leave my house. And I'm so infinite. Like I'm going to just live like I'm going to live forever and set up all these systems and do whatever I want. And like, everything's abundant. I don't know why that happened to me, and I'm happy it did, but I don't know. I just feel like there's such a crazy world that like, I just feel infinite now. And it's just the weirdest feeling, but it's a great feeling.
Mic drop. I'm going to end it there. That was so good. How can people get in touch with you or find you, Elliot?
So I'm off the grid a little bit, but you can find me on Instagram. I keep my account private for now, but I'll be opening it up later this year. Elliot_30. And I'm happy to invite you, and we'll be friends. It'll be great. And then, I'm going to be launching a fund with Mike Tyson for high luxury and Airbnbs and corporate retreats and masterminds. And I'll be launching a podcast soon and doing a bunch of stuff. But right now there's not a whole lot to plug into, but you can certainly find me on Instagram, and we'll grow our relationship from there if they'd like.
Well, look, I really appreciate you showing up the way you do. You've set a really great example for me and many other men. And I really encourage people to listen on this episode and really step into your own power and take ownership of your own power. So I appreciate you sharing your message today.
Hey, I appreciate you for having me. I always learn from you, and I'm grateful to be on here, man. So
thanks, man.
Bear hug.
Bear hug. Bear hug.